Admiral Jake Harrison stood at the viewing deck of Kepler Station, watching the stars through the massive windows. The space station was huge, bigger than most cities back on Earth. Ships came and went every day, bringing news from across the galaxy. Jake had been in charge of Earth's fleet for 5 years now, and he still loved watching the stars. The year 2387 was turning out to be quiet, which Jake liked. No wars, no big problems, just the usual work of keeping peace in this part of space. Earth had been part of the Galactic Council for over 100 years now, and most aliens thought humans were okay. Not special, not terrible, just okay. They did their jobs, followed the rules, and stayed out of trouble. Jake's helper walked up to him. Captain Ben Rogers was a good man, smart about fighting and always ready with advice. "Admiral, we got the message from Dr. Martinez on Zerion Prime. She says she found something big." Jake turned around. "What kind of big?" "The kind that might change everything," Ben said. He handed Jake a small screen with Dr. Martinez's report on it. Jake, read the report twice. Dr. Lisa Martinez was Earth's best person for studying old alien stuff. She spent her time digging through ruins on dead planets, looking for clues about species that died out millions of years ago. Usually she found broken tools or old writing. This time was different. On Zerion Prime, a planet covered in strange crystal formations, Dr. Martinez had found something impossible. Deep underground, in a room made of some kind of metal that nobody recognized, she discovered a device. It was small, about the size of a briefcase, and it hummed with energy even though it had been sitting there for who knows how long. The really strange part was what happened when Dr. Martinez touched it. Most alien technology took years for human scientists to figure out. This thing responded to her immediately, like it was waiting for her. Lights came on, symbols appeared on its surface, and it made sounds that almost seemed like music. She translated some of the writing, Jake said. "Still reading. It calls this thing Thunder Soul. Says it screams with the voice of dying stars." Ben made a face. "That sounds friendly." "The tests show it responds to human brain patterns," Jake continued. "Not just any patterns. It seems to like the way humans think." This was unusual. Most alien technology was built for alien minds. Humans could learn to use it, but it took time and practice. Thunder Soul was different. It wanted to work with humans. Jake's communication device beeped. A message was coming in from the Galactic Council. Jake opened it, and his good mood disappeared. The message was from Overlord Kethmer of the Zephyrian Empire. The Zephyrians were one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. They had mental powers that could read thoughts and move objects without touching them. They thought they were better than everyone else, especially humans. "Admiral Harrison," the message began, "we have learned of your discovery on Zerion Prime. This device poses a significant threat to galactic security. The Zephyrian Empire demands immediate transfer of this artifact to our custody for proper study and containment." Jake read the rest of the message. The Zephyrians were not asking nicely. They were threatening to cut off trade with Earth's colonies if humans did not hand over Thunder Soul. Other alien species were mentioned too. The Velkari Consortium, known for their advanced technology, wanted to study the device. The Hive Collective, a species of insect-like creatures who shared one mind, said humans were too young and stupid to handle such a powerful artifact. "They're all scared," Ben said after reading the message. "Question is, scared of what? The device, or the fact that humans found it?" Jake thought about this. In all the years since humans joined the galactic community, they had always been treated like the new kids in school. Other species were polite, but condescending. They gave humans small jobs and simple tasks. When humans did well, the aliens acted surprised, like a pet had learned a new trick. Dr. Martinez sent another message. She was still on Zarian Prime with her team, including her assistant Dr. Paul Chun and the security chief commander, Kate Sullivan. The device was getting more active. When Dr. Martinez held it, images appeared in her mind. She saw glimpses of the species that built it, beings that called themselves the first builders. Admiral, Dr. Martinez's message said, this is not just a weapon. It's something much more important. The first builders left this for someone specific. All the tests point to the same conclusion. Thunder Soul was made for humans. Jake sat down the message screen and looked back out at the stars. 3 different alien species were demanding that humans give up their discovery. They were making threats and calling humans too primitive to understand what they had found. It was the same old story, just with higher stakes, but this time felt different. Thunder Soul had chosen humans, not the other way around. For the first time since joining the galactic community, humans had found something that the older species wanted and could not have. Ben was watching Jake's face. What are you thinking, Admiral? Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to Ben with a look that would have been familiar to any student of human history. It was the same look that explorers had worn when told the ocean was too dangerous to cross, the same look that settlers had when warned that the frontier was too wild to tame, the same look that astronauts had when people said space was too vast to explore. I'm thinking, Jake said slowly, that it's time these aliens learned something about humans they seem to have forgotten. What's that? We don't give up our people, and we don't back down from bullies. Not even when they have bigger ships and fancy powers. Jake walked to his command center and opened a communication channel to Dr. Martinez on Zarian Prime. Doctor, this is Admiral Harrison. Continue your research. Do not, under any circumstances, turn Thunder Soul over to anyone without my direct order. Admiral, the aliens are getting very upset about this. Let them be upset. We'll deal with whatever comes next. As Jake closed the communication, he felt something he had not experienced in years as a human in galactic space. Pride. For once, humanity was not asking permission or apologizing for existing. They had found something incredible, and they were going to keep it. Outside the station, alien ships were already moving toward Zarian Prime. The Galactic Council meeting room buzzed with angry voices. Ambassador Lydia Thompson sat at the human section table, watching as alien representatives argued about Thunder Soul. She had been Earth's top diplomat for 10 years, but she had never seen the aliens this worked up about anything. Overlord Kethmer stood at the center of the room, his tall blue form shimmering with the mental energy that all Zephyrians used. His voice carried the arrogant tone that Lydia had learned to hate over the years. The humans have found something they cannot possibly understand, he said to the gathered aliens. They are like children playing with fire. This device must be placed in the care of a mature species before disaster strikes. Prime Engineer Veltar of the Velkari Consortium clicked his mechanical parts together, which was how his species showed agreement. The Velkari offer our services for proper study. We have the technology and wisdom to handle such artifacts safely. The worst comment came from Queen Voice Zakth, speaking for the entire Hive collective. Her insect-like head turned toward Lydia as she spoke. Humans are barely evolved beyond their primitive origins. They lack the mental capacity for such responsibility. Lydia felt her hands clench into fists under the table. She had heard this kind of talk for years, but it never got easier. The aliens always spoke about humans, like they were talking about pets or children. Smart enough to be useful, but not smart enough to make their own decisions. The artifact was discovered by humans, on a planet legally claimed by Earth, Lydia said, standing up. According to the Council's own archaeological protocols, it belongs to the species that found it. Overlord Kethmer made a sound that might have been laughter. Laws written for normal discoveries, Ambassador? This is far beyond normal. Your species joined this council only yesterday in galactic terms. You cannot expect us to trust you with something so dangerous. Meanwhile, on Zarian Prime, Dr. Lisa Martinez was learning just how wrong the aliens were. She sat in her research lab aboard the ship New Horizons, with Thundersoul resting on the table in front of her. Dr. Paul Chun worked at a computer nearby, recording everything they discovered. Commander Kate Sullivan stood guard at the door, watching for any sign of trouble. It's incredible, Lisa said, her hands hovering over the device. Every time I touch it, I see more. The first builders were not just another ancient species. They were the first ones to reach the stars in this galaxy. Paul looked up from his computer. What did they want Thundersoul to do? Lisa touched the device again, and her eyes went distant as visions filled her mind. They were looking for someone. Not just any species, but the right species. They built Thundersoul to test whoever found it. Test them how? I'm not sure yet. But it has something to do with consciousness, the way a species thinks and feels. Thundersoul is measuring something about humanity, and so far, we're passing. Commander Sullivan checked her security monitors. Well, we better pass fast. I'm seeing more alien ships moving toward this system every hour. Back at the Galactic Council, the political situation was getting worse. Ambassador Thompson watched as species after species lined up to lecture humans about their responsibilities. The pattern was always the same. The aliens would talk about how young and inexperienced humanity was, then offer to take Thundersoul away for everyone's safety. The Zephyrian Empire has maintained galactic peace for over 10,000 years, Overlord Kethmer said. We understand the burdens of power. Humans do not. The Velkari Consortium has studied ancient technology for millennia, Prime Engineer Veltar added. We know how to contain dangerous artifacts. Queen Voice Zakth spoke for the Hive Collective. Humans think as individuals, not as a unified whole. They cannot make decisions for the greater good. Lydia had heard enough. She stood up again, her voice carrying clearly across the room. You're all missing the point. You keep talking about taking Thundersoul away from us, but none of you can even activate it. Dr. Martinez touched it once, and it responded immediately. Your most advanced scientists have been studying ancient technology for thousands of years, and they still can't make it work the way Thundersoul works for humans. The room went quiet. This was something the aliens did not want to talk about. That proves nothing, Overlord Kethmer said, but his voice sounded less certain than before. Humans may have accidentally triggered some basic function. True understanding requires wisdom that comes only with age. On Zarian Prime, Dr. Martinez was discovering just how wrong that assumption was. Thundersoul was not just responding to her touch anymore. It was trying to communicate. Images flowed through her mind, showing her the history of the first builder's dot. She saw a species that looked almost human, but taller and more graceful. They had explored the galaxy millions of years ago, leaving behind ruins and artifacts on thousands of worlds. But Thundersoul was different from everything else they built. It was not just a tool or a weapon. It was a message. Paul, you need to see this, Lisa said, her voice excited. Thundersoul isn't just ancient technology. It's a test and a gift combined. The first builders made it for the species that would inherit their legacy. Inherit what legacy? Leadership of the galaxy, but not the kind of leadership based on power or age. Something else. Something they called the courage to stand when standing seems impossible. Paul stopped typing. That sounds like something humans would do. That's exactly what I think they were hoping for. Commander Sullivan's security alert started beeping. Dr. Martinez, we have a problem. I'm reading at least 50 alien ships entering the system. They're not here for a friendly visit. Lisa looked at Thundersoul, which was glowing brighter. Now, as if it could sense the approaching danger. They think we're too primitive to handle this. They think we're just children playing with something we don't understand. Are we? Paul asked. Lisa picked up Thundersoul, and for a moment, she felt connected to every human who had ever looked at something impossible and decided to try it anyway. She thought about the first humans who left Africa to explore the world. She thought about the ones who crossed oceans in tiny boats. She thought about the ones who built rockets and reached for the stars. No, she said firmly, we're not children. We're the species that never learned to give up. Back at the Galactic Council, the meeting was ending badly. Ambassador Thompson watched as the alien representatives filed out, all of them angry that humans refused to hand over Thundersoul. She knew they were planning something. In her years as a diplomat, she had learned to read the signs. Her communication device buzzed with a message from Admiral Harrison. Lydia, tell me the political situation. Bad and getting worse. They're treating us like we're too stupid to understand what we found. Same old attitude, but now they're scared too. Scared of what? Scared that maybe we're not as primitive as they thought. Thundersoul is working for us in ways it never worked for them. That makes them nervous. How nervous? Lydia looked at her notes from the meeting. 3 major alien powers, all moving. Ships toward human space. All of them talking about protecting the galaxy from human mistakes. Nervous enough to do something stupid, Jake. You better be ready. Admiral Harrison's voice was calm when he replied. We've been ready for this hour. Whole lives, Lydia. We just didn't know it yet. On Zerion Prime, Dr. Martinez held Thundersoul close as alien ships filled the sky above them. The device was warm in her hands, and she could feel it responding to her emotions. It was measuring her courage, her determination, her willingness to stand up for what was right, even when the odds were impossible. Thundersoul was learning what it meant to be human, and the aliens were about to learn it too, whether they wanted to or not. Captain Steve Murphy stood on the bridge of the Freedom's Call, watching the alien fleet through his main screen. 50 ships hung in space around Zerion Prime like angry wasps around a nest. The biggest ones belonged to the Zephyrians and Valkyrie. Smaller ships from a dozen other species filled the gaps between them. They're calling it a protective blockade, his communications officer reported. War Commander Vekvel says they're here to prevent dangerous technology from spreading. Steve had been in space for 20 years, and he knew a threat when he saw one. This was not protection. This was intimidation. The aliens had surrounded the planet where Dr. Martinez and her team were working, and they were not planning to let anyone leave with Thundersoul. Sir, incoming message from Admiral Harrison. The communications officer said. Steve accepted the call. Admiral Harrison's face appeared on the screen, and Steve could see the anger in his eyes. Steve, I need you to get our people off that planet. Dr. Martinez, Dr. Chun, Commander Sullivan, and their entire research team. Bring them home. What about Thundersoul? Bring that too. We're not leaving it for these bullies to take. Steve looked at the alien fleet again. His ship was good, but it was just one cruiser against 50 alien vessels. Admiral, they've got us outnumbered pretty badly. I know. But we don't abandon our people, Steve. That's not who we are. Steve nodded. He had served under Harrison for 5 years, and he knew the Admiral was right. Humans might be the youngest species in the galaxy, but they had rules. You don't leave people behind. You don't give up when things get hard. And you definitely don't let bullies push you around. Understood, Admiral. We're going in. On the surface of Zerion Prime, Dr. Martinez felt Thundersoul growing warmer in her hands. The device seemed to know that danger was coming. Images flashed. Through her mind more quickly now, showing her glimpses of the first builders and their long-dead civilization. "Lisa, we need to go," Commander Sullivan said from the doorway. "Captain Murphy is coming to get us, but those alien ships aren't going to let us leave easily." Dr. Paul Chun was frantically copying data from their research computers. "Give me 5 more minutes. I'm almost done backing up everything we've learned." Lisa held Thunder Soul closer. The device was showing her something new now. Not just images of the past, but something that felt like a choice. She could sense that Thunder Soul was waiting for her to make a decision. It wanted to know if humanity was ready for what came next. "Paul, forget the computers. Everything we need to know is right here." She lifted Thunder Soul, and it pulsed with soft light. "This isn't just about ancient history anymore. This is about what happens next." Above them, Captain Murphy's ship approached the planet. The Freedom's Call was a good ship, built for both exploration and fighting. But as it got closer to Zerian Prime, the alien fleet moved to intercept it. War Commander Thekval of the Zephyrian Fleet opened a communication channel. His mental voice echoed in the minds of everyone on Murphy's ship, which was how Zephyrians liked to talk when they wanted to show their power. "Human vessel, you will not approach the planet. Turn back immediately or face the consequences." Steve. Murphy had grown up in Texas, and he had never liked being told what to do by bullies. "This is Captain Murphy of the Earth vessel Freedom's Call. We are here to evacuate our people from the surface. We have every right to be here." Admiral Grixoth of the Velkari Consortium joined the conversation, his mechanical voice crackling. Through the communication system, "The humans on the surface are in possession of dangerous technology. They cannot be allowed to leave until that technology is secured." "Secured by who?" Steve asked, though he already knew the answer. "By species mature enough to handle it responsibly," War Commander Thekval replied. Steve felt his temper rising. There was that word again. Mature. The aliens loved using it when they talked about humans, as if being older automatically made you wiser, as if humans couldn't be trusted to make their own decisions. "Well, here's some maturity for you," Steve said. "We're going down to get our people. You can try to stop us if you want, but Americans don't abandon their own." The alien commanders were confused by this response. They had expected humans to back down when faced with overwhelming force. That's what younger species were supposed to do when older species gave them orders. On the planet's surface, Dr. Martinez suddenly gasped as Thunder Soul sent a powerful pulse through her mind. For a moment, she saw everything. The alien fleet. Above them, Captain Murphy's ship approaching, the tension building toward something terrible. But she also saw something else. Thunder Soul was not just a passive device waiting to be studied. It was alive in its own way, and it was making judgments about everyone it encountered. It had been measuring humanity since the moment Lisa first touched it, and now it was ready to make its decision. "Commander Sullivan," Lisa said urgently, "contact Captain Murphy. Tell him we're ready for pickup, but warn him that Thunder Soul is about to do something." "Do what?" "I'm not sure, but it's been testing us this whole time. Testing our courage, our willingness to stand up for ourselves, our refusal to back down from bullies. I think we're about to find out if we passed." Above them, the standoff was getting worse. Captain Murphy's ship was now surrounded by alien vessels, all of them with weapons powered and ready. The aliens were demanding that Murphy turn back and leave the humans on the surface. "Last warning, human," War Commander Thekval broadcast. "Withdraw or we will fire upon your vessel." Steve Murphy looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all Americans, all volunteers, who had joined Earth's space fleet to explore the galaxy and protect their people. None of them looked scared. They looked angry. "You know what?" Steve said into his communication system. I'm tired of being lectured by a bunch of aliens who think they're better than us just because they're older. We found Thundersoul fair and square. We're not giving it up just because you say so. You are children playing with forces beyond your comprehension, Admiral Grixoth responded. Maybe we are children, Steve said, but we're the kind of children who don't back down from bullies. And we're about to show you why that matters. On the planet below, Thundersoul suddenly blazed with light in Dr. Martinez's hands. The device had made its decision about humanity. For millions of years, it had waited for a species with the right combination of courage, stubbornness, and moral clarity. A species that would stand up for what was right, even when the odds were impossible. Thundersoul had found the species. The device sent out a pulse of energy that every ship in the system detected immediately. But this was not just energy. It was a message, broadcast in perfect English, directly into the minds of every human present. Authorization confirmed. Thundersoul acknowledges the inheritors, preparing for full activation. The alien fleet commanders were stunned. No species had ever been able to activate First Builder technology so completely or so quickly. War Commander Thekval's mental voice carried shock and disbelief when he spoke. Impossible. They must have stolen activation codes from somewhere. Humans could not possibly be the intended recipients of such technology. That accusation hit every human like a slap in the face. It was the same dismissive attitude they had faced since joining the galactic community. The assumption that humans could only succeed by cheating or stealing. The belief that they were too primitive to earn anything on their own merit. Commander Sullivan, listening to the alien communications from the planet's surface, made a decision that would change galactic history. She turned to Dr. Martinez, her voice calm but determined. Doctor, I think it's time we showed these aliens exactly what humans are capable of. Activate Thundersoul, not as a weapon, but as a statement. Lisa Martinez looked down at the device in her hands. It was warm now, almost hot, and she could feel it waiting for her command. Thundersoul wanted to show the galaxy what it had been, waiting millions of years to reveal. Are you sure about this? Dr. Chun asked. Lisa thought about Captain Murphy and his crew, surrounded by alien ships and threatened with destruction for trying to rescue their own people. She thought about Admiral Harrison, standing firm against alien demands. She thought about Ambassador Thompson, sitting through endless meetings where aliens talked about humans like they were children. She thought about every human who had ever been told they were too young, too primitive, too stupid to understand something important. Yes, she said firmly. I'm sure. Thundersoul chose us for a reason. Let's find out what that reason is. Lisa Martinez placed both hands on Thundersoul and opened her mind completely to the device. Above them, the alien fleet prepared to fire on Captain Murphy's ship. The moment of truth had arrived. The moment Dr. Lisa Martinez opened her mind completely to Thundersoul, everything changed. The device blazed with light so bright that everyone on Zarian Prime had to shield their eyes. But the light was not just visible. It carried something else with it, something that reached out across space and touched every living mind in the star system. Thundersoul was fully awake now, and it was not just a weapon or a tool. It was a bridge between consciousness itself and the deepest truths about what it meant to be alive in the universe. Lisa felt the device merge with her thoughts, but she was still herself. Thundersoul was not controlling her. Instead, it was amplifying everything that made her human. Her curiosity about the unknown, her determination to protect her friends, her refusal to give up when things seemed impossible. All of these feelings became stronger, clearer, more powerful. Above the planet, War Commander Thekval felt the pulse of energy hit his flagship and immediately knew that something terrible had gone wrong with his plans. This was not supposed to happen. Humans were not supposed to be able to activate ancient technology. They were too young, too primitive, too limited in their thinking. All ships, open fire on the human vessel, he ordered. We cannot allow this technology to spread. The alien fleet unleashed their weapons at Captain Murphy's ship. Energy beams and missiles filled space around the Freedom's call. But something strange happened. As the weapons approached Murphy's ship, they began to slow down, as if moving. Through thick liquid instead of empty space, Thundersoul was protecting the humans, but not by destroying the alien weapons. Instead, it was doing something much more powerful. It was broadcasting the truth about humanity directly into the minds of every sentient being in the battle. Captain Murphy felt it first. Thundersoul reached into his consciousness and showed him what it had learned about his species. He saw the long journey of humanity from caves to stars. He felt the determination that had driven his ancestors to cross dangerous oceans and explore unknown lands. He experienced the stubborn courage that had built civilizations from nothing and reached for the impossible. But Thundersoul was not just showing this to humans. Every alien in the fleet was experiencing the same thing. War Commander Thek Val, sitting in his command chair, suddenly felt what it was like to be a human explorer standing on the deck of a sailing ship, looking out at an endless ocean and deciding to cross it anyway. He felt the mixture of fear and excitement that humans called adventure. He felt their strange willingness to risk everything for the chance to see what was on the other side of the unknown. Admiral Grix of the Volcari Consortium experienced human determination in a different way. Thundersoul showed him what it felt like to be a human inventor, working day and night to solve a problem that everyone said was impossible. He felt the human refusal to accept that anything could not be done if he just worked hard enough and never gave up. The most shocking experience came to Queen Voice Zokth of the Hive Collective. Her species shared one mind, all thinking the same thoughts at the same time. But Thundersoul forced her to experience human individuality. She felt what it was like to be one person making their own choices, standing alone if necessary, thinking thoughts that no one else had ever thought before. The experience was overwhelming for all of them. The aliens had spent thousands of years thinking of humans as primitive and simple. But Thundersoul was showing them the truth. Humans were not primitive. They were young, but youth was not the same as weakness. Their refusal to accept limitations, their willingness to try things that had never been tried before, their stubborn insistence on standing up for what was right, even when everyone else said it was impossible. These were not flaws. They were exactly what the galaxy needed. Dr. Martinez, still connected to Thundersoul, began to understand what the first builders had really been looking for. They had not wanted to find the strongest species, or the smartest, or the oldest. They had been searching for the species with the right kind of heart. The kind of heart that would never give up, never back down, never accept that something was impossible, just because it had never been done before. Thundersoul showed her visions of the first builders themselves. They had been explorers too. Millions of years ago, they had reached across the galaxy, building wonders and discovering secrets. But eventually, they had grown old and tired. They had seen everything there was to see, done everything there was to do. Before they died out, they had built Thundersoul as a gift for whoever came after them. "We built this for the inheritors," the first builders whispered through Thundersoul's connection. "For the species that would carry the torch of exploration. When we could no longer hold it, we waited so long for you to find us." The broadcast from Thundersoul lasted only 60 seconds, but those 60 seconds changed everything. When it ended, the alien fleet had stopped firing. War Commander Thekval sat in his command chair, staring at the human ship with new understanding. Admiral Grixoth had shut down his weapon systems entirely. Queen Voice Zaith's hive ships simply floated in space, their collective minds struggling to process what they had experienced. Captain Murphy's communications officer looked up from his station with confusion. "Sir, the aliens have stopped shooting at us." "Why?" Murphy asked. "I'm not sure. They're just sitting there." "Wait, I'm getting a message from War Commander Thekvel." The Zephyrian commander's mental voice reached Murphy's ship, but it sounded different now. Less arrogant, more uncertain. "Human vessel, this is War Commander Thekvel. We did not understand. Thundersoul has shown us things about your species that we did not know. Things that change everything." Murphy was suspicious. "What kind of things?" "We felt what it means to be human. We experienced your determination, your courage, your refusal to surrender even when facing impossible odds. We have been wrong about your species, terribly wrong." On the planet's surface, Dr. Martinez slowly opened her eyes. Thundersoul was still glowing softly in her hands, but the intense light had faded. She felt different now, as if she had been connected to something vast and ancient and wise. "What happened?" Dr. Chun asked. Thundersoul showed them the truth. "About us," Lisa said quietly. "It made them experience what it's really like to be human. Not the way they imagined us, but the way we actually are." Commander Sullivan was monitoring the communications from the alien fleet. "They're pulling back, all of them. The blockade is ending." Dr. Martinez looked down at Thundersoul. The device was calm now, its purpose fulfilled. It had not destroyed the alien fleet or conquered their minds. Instead, it had done something much more powerful. It had shown them that humanity was not the primitive, childish species they had believed them to be. Thundersoul had revealed that humans were exactly what the first builders had been waiting for. A species young enough to still dream of the impossible, brave enough to try it, and stubborn enough to never give up until they succeeded. Captain Murphy received clearance to land on Zarian Prime and pick up the research team. As his ship descended through the planet's atmosphere, he looked out at the alien fleet that was now moving away from the system. They were not retreating in fear. They were leaving in respect. "Admiral Harrison," Murphy said into his communication. "System. Mission accomplished. We've got our people, and we've got Thundersoul. But, sir, I think something bigger has happened here. I think we just changed how every alien in the galaxy thinks about humanity." Admiral Harrison's voice came back calm and satisfied. "Good. It's about time they understood who they're dealing with." Dr. Martinez boarded the Freedom's Call with Thundersoul carefully secured in a protective case. As the ship lifted off from Zarian Prime, she looked back one last time at the place where everything had changed. Thundersoul had fired once, not as a weapon, but as a revelation. And now the entire galaxy would have to deal with the consequences of finally understanding what humans were really capable of. 6 months after the Thundersoul incident, Admiral Jake Harrison walked through the halls of the newly expanded Kepler station. The space station was 3 times bigger now, with new sections built to handle all the alien species they wanted to meet with humanity. Ships from across the galaxy waited in line for permission to dock, and every day brought new requests for meetings, trade agreements, and alliances. The galaxy had changed, and humanity was at the center of that change. Ambassador Lydia Thompson met Jake at the main conference room, carrying a stack of reports that seemed to grow larger every day. "Admiral, we've got 17 more species requesting formal alliances this week. The Andorian Republic wants to share their medical technology. The Crystalline Collective is offering to teach us their mining techniques. Even the Void Walkers have come out of hiding to ask for a meeting." Jake shook his head in amazement. 6 months ago, most of these species had never bothered to acknowledge that humans existed. Now they were all eager to be humanity's friends. What about the big? 3? Jake asked, referring to the Zephyrian Empire, Valkyrie Consortium, and Hive Collective. That's the interesting part, Lydia said. They're not trying to be our enemies anymore, but they're not exactly asking to be friends either. They're being very careful, very respectful. It's like they're afraid of us now. This was not entirely wrong. The experience of Thundersoul had left deep marks on the 3 major alien powers. They had felt what it was like to be human, and it had shaken their understanding of everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. Kethmer of the Zephyrian Empire sat in his private chambers, still trying to make sense of what Thundersoul had shown him. His mental powers, which had always made him feel superior to other species, now seemed small compared to the human ability to keep trying when everything seemed hopeless. He had sent several messages to Admiral Harrison, all of them asking for meetings to discuss mutual understanding and cooperation. None of them sounded like the arrogant demands he used to make Prime Engineer Veltar of the Valkyrie. Consortium had completely changed his approach to technology development. After experiencing human creativity through Thundersoul, he realized that his species had become too focused on perfecting old ideas instead of inventing new ones. He had started hiring human engineers to work with Valkyrie scientists, and the results were already impressive. Their latest ships were faster and more efficient than anything the Valkyrie had built in centuries. Queen Voice Zakth of the Hive Collective had perhaps been changed the most. The experience of human individuality had shown her what her species was missing by sharing one mind. She had begun allowing some members of the Hive to think their own thoughts, to make their own decisions. It was scary and difficult, but it was also exciting in ways the Hive had never experienced before. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Martinez had become the most famous scientist in human history. Thundersoul sat in a place of honor in the newly built First Elder Memorial, no longer glowing with active power, but still radiating a sense of quiet strength. Lisa visited the memorial every day, not because Thundersoul needed her attention, but because she still felt connected to the ancient device and everything it represented. Dr. Paul Chun had been promoted to head of the new Department of First Builder Studies. His job was to study the knowledge that Thundersoul had shared during its activation. The device had not just shown humanity their own nature, it had also downloaded millions of years of First Builder history and technology into human databases. The First Builders left us more than just Thundersoul, Paul explained to a group of human and alien scientists. They left us a roadmap, instructions for technologies we haven't even dreamed of yet. But the most important thing they left us was a responsibility. What kind of responsibility? Asked Dr. Kemal Ozen, one of the alien scientists who had requested permission to study with humans. To be the conscience of the galaxy. Thundersoul didn't make us the strongest species or the smartest. It made us the species that other species look to when they need to remember what's right. This was already happening in ways both large and small. The slave markets that had operated in the Outer Rim for thousands of years had quietly shut down after Thundersoul's activation. No species wanted to be caught practicing slavery when humanity might find out about it. Several wars between minor species had ended when both sides received polite but firm messages from Admiral Harrison suggesting that there might be better ways to solve their problems. Captain Steve Murphy, now promoted to Admiral, commanded the new exploration fleet. Dozens of ships crewed by humans and aliens working together were spreading across the galaxy, not to conquer or claim territory, but to explore and discover new things. It was exactly what the First Builders had hoped would happen. The galaxy was getting old, Murphy explained to his mixed crew of humans and aliens as they approached an unexplored star system. All the major species had been around for thousands of years. They had stopped trying new things, stopped taking risks, stopped dreaming about what might be possible. They needed someone to remind them what exploration really means. Commander Kate Sullivan, now in charge of Galactic Security Coordination, had perhaps the most interesting job of all. Species that had old grudges against each other were asking humans to help them find peaceful solutions. Humans were becoming the mediators, the peacekeepers, the ones that other species trusted to be fair and honest. It's not because we're perfect, Kate explained to a group of new human diplomats. It's because Thundersoul showed everyone that we don't give up on doing the right thing, even when it's hard. That makes other species trust us in ways they don't trust each other. Ambassador Thompson had moved to a new position as head of the Galactic Cooperation Council, a new organization that existed to help species work together instead of competing with each other. The old Galactic Council still existed, but most of the real decisions were now made in the new organization, where humanity had the final say on disputes. The first builders weren't looking for rulers, Lydia explained to the council members during their weekly meeting. They were looking for leaders. There's a difference. Rulers force people to obey them. Leaders inspire people to be better than they thought they could be. Back on Kepler Station, Admiral Harrison stood once again at the viewing deck, watching the stars. But now the view was different. Ships from dozens of species moved through space in organized patterns, working together on projects that would have been impossible when each species was focused only on its own interests. Captain Ben Rogers joined him at the window. Any regrets about not handing over Thundersoul when the aliens demanded it? Jake smiled. Not a single one. Thundersoul knew what it was doing. It waited millions of years to find the right species, and it found us exactly when we needed to find it. Think we'll live up to what the first builders wanted? Jake thought about all the changes he had seen in the past 6 months. Slavery ending across the galaxy. Wars stopping before they could start. Species that had been enemies for centuries, now working together on peaceful projects. Young species that had been ignored by the major powers, now being treated as equals. And partners. We already are, Ben. Thundersoul didn't fire as a weapon that day. It fired as a signal. A message to the galaxy that the age of the old powers was over, and the age of cooperation was beginning. Outside the station, a new ship arrived carrying representatives from a species that lived in the galaxy's outer rim. They had traveled for months to reach human space, hoping to join the growing alliance of worlds that looked to humanity for moral leadership. Dr. Martinez felt Thundersoul pulse gently in its memorial case as the new ship docked. The device might be dormant now, but its work was far from over. Every day, more species learned what it meant to have hope again, to believe that the impossible could become possible, to remember that the galaxy was vast and full of wonders, waiting to be discovered. Thundersoul had fired once, and in that single moment, it had reminded the galaxy of something that had been forgotten for too long. The universe was not a place of limitations and ancient grudges. It was a place of infinite possibilities, waiting for someone brave enough to reach for them. Humanity had reached, and the galaxy had followed. The first builders would have been proud.